In the heart of China, there is a city that seems to belong to another world. A place where the frenetic pace of modernity blends with traces of a Portuguese colonial past. At first glance, Macau looks like a compact version of Las Vegas. Imposing casinos, illuminated skyscrapers, luxury shopping malls. But as you walk through the streets, you begin to notice something peculiar. Signs written in Portuguese, a thank you spoken by a Chinese vendor, the smell of bacalhau, salted cod, coming from a hidden restaurant in an alley. This is the contrast of Macau, a territory that, while being in the heart of China, is a piece of Portugal, lost and preserved in the east. A city that carries an air of nostalgia, but also embraces the future with its casinos and luxury tourism. It is a city that defies expectations, where Portuguese is still spoken in the streets, where architecture mixes European Baroque with Asian minimalism, and where traditions remain alive, despite the neon lights shining brightly everywhere. This is the Macau that few know, and it is this contrast that leads us to a fascinating story, where East and West coexist in a unique way, creating a city that is as old as it is modern. The history of Macau began in 1557, when the Portuguese arrived on the southern coast of China and established a colony that would become a link between East and West. For more than 400 years, Macau was a vital trading post between Europe and Asia. In the 16th century, Macau became the first point of contact between Portugal and China, facilitating not only the trade of goods, but also cultural and religious exchange. The streets of Macau speak for themselves. Its churches, such as the Church of St. Joseph, and Chinese temples like the Ama Temple, are witnesses to a unique coexistence between Portuguese Catholicism and Chinese Taoism. The architecture reflects this blend. Colonial buildings with Portuguese features, colorful facades and tiles, sit side by side with vibrant markets and traditional Chinese temples. Here, history overlaps at every corner. In 1999, Macau was handed back to China, but unlike other colonial territories, Portuguese remained one of the official languages. This is not just a formality, it is a living part of the local identity, resisting time and change. The Portuguese legacy in Macau is not just a remnant of the past, but a bridge between two worlds that, despite their differences, continue to coexist harmoniously. Macau is a place where daily life reflects this fusion of cultures. Walking through the streets, you might see elderly people playing mahjong in peaceful squares, while speaking Portuguese with a peculiar accent. The sound of Cantonese resonates on every corner, but Portuguese also makes its presence felt, especially in simple gestures. On street signs, the names of shops, in everyday interactions. In Macau, the colonial past is never far away, but it blends with the frenetic dynamics of the present. While in the big cities of China, the pace is dizzying, in Macau there's a sense that time moves more slowly. The contrast is clear. While young people attend schools where Portuguese is still taught, the elderly maintain their traditions, like the art of weaving or making the famous pastéis de nata, a direct legacy of Portuguese influence. In the city center, you find centuries-old churches next to Taoist temples, showing a peaceful coexistence between different beliefs and practices. The local markets, with their colors and aromas, are a showcase of Macau's cultural diversity. Life here is simple, but rich in meaning. Small details like the names of the streets or the taste for Portuguese coffee reveal how the city preserves a history that is lived in the present, not just remembered from the past. It's a blend that few other places in the world can offer. A coexistence between the old and the new, the Western and the Eastern, the past and the future. Macau, with its imposing casinos and extravagant resorts, is considered the largest gambling center in the world. Here, the sparkle of the lights not only hides opulence, but also a vast financial flow. In terms of revenue, Macau surpasses Las Vegas, attracting millions of tourists from all over the world. The Cotai streets, for example, are a parade of luxurious hotels, each grander than the other, with architecture that mimics everything from the Eiffel Tower to Piazza San Marco. The casinos, which are not just places for betting but full entertainment complexes, attract not only big international players, but also a crowd seeking luxury and sophistication. The buildings are so imposing that it's hard to imagine that under this scene of brilliance and modernity, there's a city with roots so deep in the past. But the glamour of Macau is not limited to its futuristic buildings or its twinkling lights. Behind the golden facades and exuberant luxury, Macau still preserves a population that carries the language and traditions of Portugal. Portuguese, still spoken in schools, institutions, and everyday conversations, continues to be a link between the past and the present. And despite the growing luxury tourism, the people of Macau take pride in their cultural heritage, keeping alive traditions that date back to colonial times. Even in the midst of one of the world's largest gambling hubs, there's a city that has never forgotten its origins. Macau is a place where the ancient and the modern don't just coexist, but intertwine in a unique way. The city is a true open-air museum, where ruins, temples, and squares tell stories that date back centuries. The ruins of St. Paul, for example, are one of the most emblematic landmarks of Macau. What remains of the facade of the old St. Paul's Church, destroyed by a fire in the 17th century, is now a symbol of resistance and cultural fusion. This place, where the history of Portugal meets the history of China, stands as a testament to the strength of the European legacy that endures in the heart of the East. The Macau Tower, standing at 338 meters, is another example of how the city blends the modern with the traditional. On a clear day, from the top of the tower, you can see the contrast between the narrow streets of the old city, full of history, and the skyscrapers that dominate the horizon. The Senado Square, with its Portuguese stone sidewalks and colonial architecture, is also a crucial spot to understand Portugal's influence on the city. Walking there, you can feel the atmosphere of a city that, though small, has a grand presence. But Macau is not just made up of ruins and monuments. The Ama Temple, dedicated to the sea goddess, is another example of the strong presence of Chinese culture in the city. This temple, dating back to the 15th century, is one of Macau's most important places of worship and stands out for its delicate architecture and the peace it offers visitors. Here, the coexistence of Portuguese Catholicism and Chinese Taoism is more visible than ever. It's a perfect example of how these two seemingly opposite cultures manage to merge, creating a unique identity that is the essence of Macau. In Macau, Portuguese is not just a language of the past, it is a living presence that permeates the city in various ways. Unlike many other colonial territories where the language of the former metropolis faded over time, Portuguese remains strong, resisting the dominance of Mandarin and Cantonese. In Macau, it is spoken in schools, is official in public documents, and is even used on street signs and in the names of many businesses. As you walk through the city, you can hear conversations in Portuguese mixed with Cantonese, creating a unique sound that reflects the fusion of two cultures. Portuguese is more than just a linguistic curiosity. It is an essential part of the local identity. The language is a link to Macau's history, and for many residents, speaking Portuguese is a way to keep a significant part of their heritage alive. In many homes, the elderly still remember Portuguese folk songs, the stories told by grandparents, or the culinary traditions that arrived with the Portuguese, such as bacalhau, salted cod, and pastéis de nata, custard tarts. Moreover, the Portuguese language also reflects in Macau's daily life, with young people studying the language in local schools and trying to connect with a cultural legacy that, although distant, is still very present. The pride that Macau residents have for their language is palpable, and Portuguese continues to be a symbol of cultural resistance, showing that, even with the passage of time and the growing dominance of Mandarin, the city's history will never be forgotten. Macau is a city that constantly walks the fine line between the past and the future. The fusion of cultural traditions and modern development is not only visible in the streets, but also in the attitudes and perspectives of its inhabitants. On one side, there is the luxury of large constructions, casinos, and skyscrapers. On the other, there is the preservation of a simpler, quieter lifestyle, where traditions still hold a prominent place. Macau lives a dilemma that few cities face with such harmony: how to keep its cultural identity alive amidst rapid growth and mass tourism. Despite being a global hub for gambling and luxury tourism, Macau still holds on to the essence of its colonial past and the authenticity of its roots. Amidst the modernity, many young people are dedicated to studying Portuguese, recognizing the value of a language that, for many, is a bridge between two cultures. Art and music also continue to reflect this balance between past and future, with local artists mixing elements of Portuguese tradition with contemporary Chinese influences. The challenges of preserving cultural heritage while adapting to the demands of tourism and globalization are evident, but Macau is a resilient city. The coexistence of different cultures is more than a historical phenomenon. It is a daily practice. New generations grow up with the awareness that Macau's future cannot be built solely on the lights of casinos and business, but also on the appreciation of its history, languages, and customs. In Macau, the future is built with respect for the past, keeping a cultural legacy alive that will not be easily erased. Amidst the growing power of China, there is a place where the past and the present intertwine in a way that few places in the world can achieve. Macau, with its Portuguese heritage and strategic position in the East, is not just a tourist destination. It is a meeting point of civilizations, a microcosm of two seemingly opposing worlds. Yet here they merge in a unique way. In its streets, where Portuguese still resonates and traditions remain alive, it's possible to feel that, despite all the changes the world imposes, something very special still persists. Looking at Macau, we see more than just casinos or imposing skyscrapers. We see a city that carries in its heart a history of resistance, adaptation, and cultural preservation. A city that, although an integral part of China, still maintains a deep connection with Portugal, a bond that, far from being erased, continues to shine with unique intensity. Macau is, above all, a reminder that, even in a world where everything is in constant motion, stories and cultural identities can survive, evolve, and even enrich over time. It teaches us that it's possible to look to the future without forgetting the past, and that the true beauty of a city lies in how it keeps alive what makes it unique. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to stay updated with all our latest content. I want to know what you think about Macau and its unique history, so leave your comment below. Until the next video, where we'll continue to explore amazing places around the world. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.